All right.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for being here today on very short notice. Um, as you can see, there's a lot of folks that are concerned about what we're having to now respond to today, among all the fires that we're having to put out in our community. Um, my name is Charlane Oliver. I'm state senator for Nashville. I represent District 19, and District 19 encompasses Southeast Davidson County, and the proposed Elon Musk tunnel will go right down Murfreesboro Pike, which is part of my district. I wanted to call this press conference today because, as you can see, there's a lot of concerned citizens. I have community groups here, we have voters here, we have residents, we have elected officials, Metro Council members here, everyone who was excluded from this decision today. Nashville has been dealing with a lot of capital projects that seems to be a pattern. There seems to be a pattern where community engagement is not valued. But we wanted to bring together people to make sure our voices got heard in this process, to make sure to let people know who are trying to make these decisions, these Republicans, that they can't make this without us.
Right.
Nashville does not belong to them, and Nashville is not for sale. We are also seeing a pattern with the Boring Company, with Elon Musk. Now, this is his second time coming to Tennessee, first in Memphis, dropping into a Black community that has already been disinvested in, disenfranchised, and now he wants to come here in a Black and brown community to do the same thing, to exploit, to pillage, and to profit. But he doesn't have a track record of actually pouring back into the community. So like I said, we got a lot of questions. And what we saw today at the building commission meeting was just a formality. Mm-hmm. The tents are already up. The tractors and trailers and diggers are ready to go. But I'm going to read off some of the questions that I have on behalf of District 19. Bear with me. But when it comes to financial transparency and accountability, what is the total project cost? And can you provide a detailed breakdown of the things from this? What are the specific revenue models and profit projections for the company over the life of the project? What happens if the project exceeds budget or faces cost overruns or bears that financial responsibility? Property rights and public assets. What specific state, county, and municipal property rights are you requesting? And what is the fair market value of these rights? Why wasn't there a competitive bidding process for access to public property and right-of-way? What compensation is the state receiving for granting access to public land and infrastructure? Will the property owners, especially the businesses that are along Murfreesboro Pike, receive compensation or easements for any impacts to their land and values or construction disruption? When it comes to community input, why were Nashville elected officials who have affected districts excluded from planning discussions? What local input did the Republicans receive for this project? What community engagement process will you implement before construction begins? How will you address concerns from residents and businesses along the route who had no input in this decision?
Right.
And what we are asking for is, will you commit to halting the project if environmental impact studies reveal significant concerns? Speaking of environmental concerns, given Nashville's flood history, see that they weren't here in May 2010, right? What are the specific engineering plans to prevent tunnel flooding? And who is liable for flood damage? What environmental impact assessments have been completed, and will you make them publicly available? How will construction impact local water tables, drainage systems, and existing underground infrastructure? What are the emergency evacuation procedures? Because we've seen some Teslas blow up. How will first responders access the tunnels? When it comes to labor and economic justice, what are your commitments to using actual local workers in paying prevailing wages? Will you require union labor or commit to specific worker safety standards? How many permanent jobs will this create? Because we also hadn't talked about Uber and Lyft, which is what people rely on now to get from the airport. Those are local community members driving those cars. At least that money gets put back into the community, those wages that they provide. I'm not advocating for Lyft or Uber, but that is an option. What percentage of contracts will go to local minority-owned businesses? How does this privatized system integrate with existing public transit planning and the Choose How You Move transit plan that was already approved by referendum by the Nashville voters? Why wasn't this coordinated with WeGo public transit and regional transportation planning efforts? And will this undermine support and ridership for comprehensive public transit solutions? And lastly, when it comes to long-term community impact, how will you prevent this from becoming a transit system primarily serving affluent travelers rather than daily commuters? Because if we look at the route from downtown Nashville to the airport in reverse, and then if you look at the geographical outlook of our city, where do actual Nashville residents live? They don't live downtown. They live in the outskirts of the city, the suburbs. So this route by design is not meant to serve us, because when I, as a Nashvilleian, go to the airport, I don't take my route from downtown. I take it from Bordeaux. And when I come back off of a plane, I'm not going downtown. So again, this is meant to serve tourists as a pet project and not for us. All of these questions that I had, I was going to direct them to the Boring Company this morning. I was supposed to meet at 7 a.m. with Jim Fitzgerald. He canceled on me at 10 o'clock last night. So again, who is the state working for? Who is the Boring Company working for? It's not serving Nashville. I'll leave it at that. I want to bring up Metro Council member at large, Delicia Porterfield, who will speak on behalf of herself, and Russ Bradford, Metro Council member who was not able to be here today, but his district is within the area that is being affected.
Thank you, Senator Oliver. Again, my name is Delicia Porterfield. I am a councilwoman at large, and I was duly elected to represent the constituents and the residents of Nashville and Davidson County. However, my voice and my colleagues' voices were not present at the table when backroom deals were done with billionaires, and that is wrong. I've heard from so many constituents. I've been on the Metro Council for 6 years, and for 6 years, our constituents have demanded the same things: access to health care, affordable housing, good paying jobs, livable wages, education, access to affordable child care. Tennesseans want access to their body. I have heard zero requests for public land to be given to a billionaire to create an underground tunnel. Zero. Never. None. And the first time that I heard about it is probably the first time that you heard about it. So when my constituents reached out to me and asked questions, Councilwoman, can you tell me about this tunnel? No, I cannot. I have no information, because Republican leadership felt that it was better to do backroom deals with billionaires than to actually engage the individuals that represent this constituency. This is yet another example of overreach by the state of Tennessee. Yet another example of disrespect for Nashville and Davidson County. Yet another example of working with corporations to do things that are not in the interest of Nashvillians and Tennesseans. Public land should be used for public good. Public land should be used for public good. And we saw what happened in Memphis. I'm originally from Memphis. And when we stood up as Nashvillians and we stood in support of Memphians who were standing up against the environmental racism that we saw Elon Musk subjecting Memphis to, and now we're seeing it happen yet again here. I was reached out to by an individual who lives in Las Vegas, and he's originally from Nashville. but now he lives in Las Vegas. And he said, Councilwoman, please do everything you can to stop this project, because I have the unique perspective of someone who's lived both in Nashville and in Las Vegas. And let me tell you how bad this tunnel is. Let me tell you about the problems that we're seeing. We have so many questions. Senator Charlane Oliver expressed many of the questions that we have. And unfortunately, we don't have any answers. And I was asked by a news station, could we support this project? How can you support something that you don't have any information for? And if we were acting in good faith, if this was truly a good project, why was the community not involved? Why was the community not engaged in this process? Why were local elected officials, the people that are actually elected to represent these districts, why were they not included in the conversation? I'll let you all figure that one out for yourselves. My colleague, Councilmember Russ Bradford, could not be here today, but he is the council member that represents District 13 in the airport, so I will be reading a statement from him. As an elected representative of this community, I must express my strong opposition to the proposed tunnel between Nashville International Airport and downtown. This project is in essence a pro-tourist vanity endeavor, prioritizing image and convenience for visitors over meaningful long-term investment in infrastructure that actually serves the people of Nashville. Our city faces pressing challenges: deteriorating roads, under-resourced public transportation, rising housing costs, and widening disparities in opportunity across neighborhoods. Yet, instead of addressing these urgent needs, state and airport leadership is asking taxpayers to consider a multi-billion-dollar tunnel designed not for residents, but for the convenience of tourists. I am particularly concerned about the ecological and geological impacts of this tunnel. Nashville's unique subsurface conditions are not well suited for such extensive excavation. The risk, disruption to water tables, increased flood vulnerability, and long-term environmental degradation are real and have not been fully accounted for. These potential harms are especially troubling for the many low-income and historically marginalized communities that already bear the burden of environmental injustice on our city. Furthermore, this project lacks clear and convincing public benefit. It does not address the core transportation challenges residents face daily. It does not strengthen our transit system or enhance regional connectivity in any equitable or sustainable way. What it does do is divert public attention, energy, and potentially funding away from the infrastructure our communities truly need. As a council member, my commitment is to the people of my community, especially those whose voices are too often ignored in decisions like these. I will continue to advocate for infrastructure investments that are community-driven, fiscally responsible, environmentally sound, and focused on equity. We should not be building tunnels for tourists while entire neighborhoods go without sidewalks, drainage, or safe public transit. I urge state and airport leadership to rethink this project and realign our priorities with the real everyday needs of our residents. My final question, as a person who lives right on the other side of the airport, who travels down Murfreesboro Road every single day as I commute into this city, and Senator, I keep wanting to make you a council member, Senator Oliver already talked about the Choose How You Move plan, which was overwhelmingly voted for by residents of Nashville and Davidson County. How does this impact traffic for Murfreesboro Road? How does this impact families and businesses that live along that corridor? I wish I could answer that question for you.
Next, we'll have Senator Heidi Campbell, and then Representative Vincent Dixie, and then local groups.
Hey, I'll be brief, but I just wanted to say I hope the media will contextualize this. This is not an isolated incident. This is part of what I would say, and I think my colleagues would agree with me, is living in a totalitarian state at this point. We are not living in anything close to a democracy, and this is a perfect example of how we are not being consulted at all on any projects. Absolutely nobody who represents Nashville or the land on which this is happening was consulted about this. This was just thrown on us at the same time that it was announced to the general public. And I want to contextualize this because it's super important, and I hope the media will cover this because Tennesseans and Americans need to know this. Earlier this month at a gathering of the American Legislative Exchange Council or Foundation, Heritage President Kevin Roberts urged state GOP leaders, listen to me, he urged state GOP leaders in Nashville to decharter Nashville and transform it into a state-controlled municipal district, bypassing local democracy entirely. And so just a few days later, we see that the governor is selling the ground beneath our feet.
That's right.
In light of this obscene and financially irresponsible power grab by the controlling party in Tennessee, the push to rubber stamp Musk's tunnel with zero public input becomes all the more alarming. It's a direct assault on the democratic self-governance of our city. And this is not about bureaucratic convenience. It's about allowing a private billionaire to bypass public processes entirely and to waive rent on terms that were authored in secret. And that means no public scrutiny, no competing proposals, and no community input, even though all of Nashville, and this cannot be emphasized enough, all of Nashville bears the risk. So if something goes wrong, there is no policy or oversight to protect the public interest. Nashville deserves better than backroom handouts to billionaires. Our city deserves a government that values accountability, transparency, and fairness over short-sighted deals. I grew up here. This is my home. And let me be clear, this bill is not something that we asked for, and this is not Bill Lee's city to give away. There was zero consultation with professional zoning staff, engineers, city planners, or elected officials who actually represent Nashville. And nobody wants our public goods handed over to the world's richest man with zero consideration for the people who live here. Nashville is not just open for business as a cheap tax, cheap labor playground for corporations and bachelorette parties.
Yes.
All right, I'll be extremely brief. This is probably one of the greatest examples of the good old boys club. This was done in a backroom deal. At the 11th hour, we find out, really the midnight hour, we find out about this. There was a lot of negotiations we heard in the meeting today. Things are already in place. Things are rolling down the track. Like I said, the train isn't just on the track, it's steamrolling down the track at this moment. And it's unfortunate that this administration, its MO has always been take care of business first. We've seen it with the ESAs. We've seen it with the tax breaks that he's giving the corporations that didn't ask for it. And now this. This is just unacceptable. Government is supposed to happen for the people and not against the people. And that's what continuously happens in Tennessee. This is a time for us to stand up, band together. It doesn't matter what your political preference is. It's just truly about the people. If you care about your common person, you care about your community, you care about just everyday quality of life living, you have to get involved. Because this is unacceptable for them to just railroad this project on us that we didn't ask for. There's no need. There's no way that this impacts or helps the average Nashvilleian. It does, in no way does it relieve the traffic congestion that we have here. No way does it move mass amount of people around in a rapid manner. So I think that there's other people complicit besides the governor in this, because as we heard today, those plans have been going on for a while. So it doesn't just stop at his administration. We have to look locally at our municipalities at how are they involved in that too. Because it didn't just happen overnight, and it's not happening by itself. So let's hold everybody accountable. All right? So thank you.
Next, we will have Adam Nicholson. He is with Transit Now Nashville Coalition.
Great. Thanks so much. There's so many reasons to be against this. I'm Adam Nicholson with Transit Now Nashville. We're a community-based organization advocating for transit solutions based on community needs. I will be focusing on transit, so I'll try to be fast. So this is being pitched as something attractive or innovative, but Tesla tunnels hotels. This is not a transit solution. Nashville already has transit from downtown to the airport with the WeGo Route 18 and 18 Express, and that service is expanding. Route 55 Murfreesboro Pike is building bus rapid transit with a connection to the airport, along with Route 52 Nolensville Pike. These are transit service expansions that Nashvillians voted for overwhelmingly only 8 months ago. WeGo Passenger Rail has a Donaldson station that could expand to the airport with 3 miles of new track. The Nashville Airport has a large transit station built for a rail connection on the roof of their garage. Is that investment going to just be abandoned? These Tesla tunnels need to pay a driver for every 3 passengers. WeGo Transit had 8.2 million rides. Can you imagine having to pay a driver for every 3 passengers? How much money will the Boring Company have to charge to turn a profit? If the Boring Company business model fails, at some point, what happens to the tunnels? So if this was a real transit system improvement, there would be an alternatives analysis to see if this is the mode that best serves the situation. That hasn't happened here, and no one asked for Tesla tunnels. Nashville's existing and future transit system has already gone through community planning processes that build consensus. We found a great solution with bus rapid transit, or BRT. So one of the great things about BRT is it can move 10,000 people per hour per direction and use existing right-of-way. These upgrades are adaptable, unlike tunnels, and allow for improving streetscapes with sidewalks, shade trees, and stormwater management. We support innovation, we support partnerships that serve the public good, but this proposal, as it stands, does neither. We urge our elected representatives to reject it and instead advance transportation solutions that reflect the values and priorities of all Nashvillians and all Tennesseans, and not just a select few. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Richard Massey. I'm the Shelby County Ground Game Organizer for the Equity Alliance. Today, we're coming to you from Memphis to alert you of the urgent and critical nature of what's happening right here, right now in Nashville. Since June of last year, Elon Musk has operated the world's largest supercomputer in the backyard of Memphis's most vulnerable residents in Boxtown, operating 35 methane gas turbines in direct vicinity of homes, churches, businesses, and schools, all without any public input and without any consideration for the people who lived in the area that has suffered for generations from legacy pollution. And then Elon shipped over an entire natural gas power plant from overseas to power Colossus, all while expanding XAI to another historically black neighborhood in Memphis, being Whitehaven. Less than half a mile away from the John P. Freeman School, Colossus 2 will belch out pollutants that will be inhaled by Whitehaven's finest K-8 students, putting them on par to graduate with higher rates of cancer and asthma, as well as a whole host of life-threatening ailments. This is a crisis that has already claimed the lives of South Memphis's grandparents, fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters. Long story short, there is a significant human cost to doing business with the richest man in the world, who has time and time again neglected the health of communities and has bypassed local regulations to boost his profits. From Tesla in Fremont, California, being cited over 110 different times for air quality violations, to XAI violating the Clean Air Act blatantly in South Memphis, to SpaceX polluting wetlands in Boca Chica, Texas, to the Boring Company, which is now here in Nashville, being cited in Bastrop, Texas for illegally discharging stormwater. Now here we are in Nashville, in the capital city of our great state, wondering what is the richest man in the world possibly up to next. For starters, Governor Lee has done everything in his power throughout his term to elevate profit over people, including what he now refers to as the coolest thing he's announced in his 8 years of serving. What is being hailed as a transportation solution is nothing more than a massive corporate giveaway. The Music City Loop, as it's being called, is a Tesla-only underground tunnel that will charge a fare to anyone who chooses to use it. This is essentially an underground private taxi service that will serve to promote Tesla vehicles as opposed to alleviating any congestion in Nashville. We can look at the similar Vegas Loop, which has been regarded by residents as nothing more than a glorified toll tunnel for wealthy residents and tourists. Because these projects are privately funded, at least to our knowledge, they are largely exempt from necessary environmental reviews and efficiency assessments. According to ProPublica, the Boring Company twice installed tunnels with no permits to work on county property, and state and local environmental regulators caught the company dumping untreated water into the sewage system of Las Vegas. Disabled residents in Las Vegas stated that these rides provided minimal accommodations at best. And while Musk and his company shareholders were heralding this project as a breakthrough, Boring workers were filing several complaints of OSHA about, quote, ankle-deep water in the tunnels, mug spills, and severe chemical burns. Is this truly the best that we can do here in Nashville? Why is there zero urgency at all to consider the means-tested solutions offered by public transit advocates in the city for years? Better yet, why is there so much urgency to give away public land to a company and a man that has violated entire communities? And for those of who are downplaying the political nature of this all, this is the same man who bought the 2024 election to cripple the EPA, to cripple the FAA, to cripple the Department of Labor, and several other agencies that monitor the scale of misconduct. To those of whom say that this isn't political should speak with Representative Justin Jones, who was just barred entry at a special event announcing this ridiculous project in his own district at the request of Bill Lee. Does a project announced at a special event with a special invitee list behind armed officers sound like something that represents everyday Nashvillians? Absolutely not. Again, we are here not to instill fear or uncertainty, but to give you all a warning before the groundbreaking even takes place. Thank you.
My name is Amber Sherman. I am the lead Tennessee organizer for Black Voters Matter. I interact with voters every day, from community meetings like the one I was at yesterday about blight, to canvassing against XAI, to phone banking. And I can tell you none of them have ever mentioned wanting a tunnel under Nashville to get to the airport. Once again, Tennessee Republicans and our governor are focused on the wrong thing. Instead of focusing on how we're going to keep rural hospitals open with all these Medicaid cuts, or how we're going to make sure that food pantries don't continue to close from losing federal funding, or how Tennessee families will be able to thrive with so many resources being cut left and right, he's worried about being besties with a billionaire building a tunnel for Teslas, and he probably doesn't even have a Tesla. It's honestly embarrassing and a disservice to Tennesseans who deserve a governor who prioritizes their actual needs and not their weird desires of a billionaire. Our governor should be responding to the transportation needs of our state, like building a train to connect major cities and rural areas. But our governor continues to show his allegiance and priorities are billionaires and racists. Elon Musk and the Boring Company are on a mission to wreak environmental havoc throughout our entire state. Looking at what's happening in Memphis with XAI and the amount of pollution that they're causing every single day, the way they've started the project with no permits, the amount of turbines they've been using, even though they said they were using 15, but then we see they're using 35, the continual lies. We don't need this project in our state. If we don't stop what's happening in Memphis and Nashville, they'll be announcing a project in East Tennessee next. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who spoke today, and thank you all for being here. I'm Jess Williams, a representative of the Shift Nashville Coalition and Director of Growth and Engagement with the Equity Alliance. What you've heard today here is the absolute truth. This tunnel is not about progress. It's about profit. It's not for us. It's for them. It's not our plan, and we refuse to sit silently as they try to build it under our feet. From South Nashville to South Memphis, Elon Musk, you cannot have our communities. On September 4th, that's our next action. We'll have a meeting, a community meeting, where we'll talk about how this tunnel will impact our communities economically, politically, and environmentally. And we need you to be there. We need you to bring your neighbors, and we need you to bring your power. Today, I need you to text tunnel to 91750 to make sure that you're plugged into the Shift Nashville Coalition and the Equity Alliance. Make sure you're following our social media handles so that you can stay up to date on what's going on next. Thank you, and we'll see you on September 4th.
Yeah, we'll take a few questions.
Just ask Senator Oliver, if there was a tunnel being tunneled from the airport into Franklin through Williamson County, do you think Williamson County officials would have been involved in the conversation?
That's a no-brainer. Some of our most powerful politicians live in Williamson County, including the governor, including Marsha Blackburn, including Senator Jack Johnson, our majority leader. So, of course, they would be included in this project. But probably most importantly, the constituents of Williamson County would have been heard, raised hell, and probably stopped this as well because they listen to money.
Senator, I'm wondering when you found out about this and if you had any input with the governor and any of the negotiations that were going on during this process.
I learned about this through the news media like everyone else. I've been hearing about it through stories months ago that there might be a tunnel coming, which sounded ludicrous then, it sounded ludicrous now. But on Monday at approximately 2 o'clock, I got a call from our Davidson County delegation chair, Representative Caleb Himmer, saying, "Are you going to this announcement at 4 o'clock today at the Hilton?" I said, "What announcement?" So, yeah, that's how I learned about it. Had a couple minutes to process what was really happening and going on, and it's already happening. So, unfortunately, no, I did not get a chance to do that. And it's just unfortunate that we see our Republican supermajority continue to try to take over Nashville. Yeah. They're trying to take over our Metro Council. They're trying to attempted to take over our airport authority, and now we see why. Mm-hmm. And now our East Bank Authority, we have representation from Republicans on that. So there is a continuous effort to try to control the economic engine of this state. They must love living in a democratic city.
Senator, I wanted to ask what comes next in the fight against this? Is it a lawsuit? What next steps can there be for those that don't want to see this happen?
I think we need to zoom out and look at and connect the dots to what is going on in our state. Mm-hmm. Oligarchs are trying to control what's happening. So it's not just about a tunnel. It's not just about stopping a tunnel. It's about stopping people who are rich and powerful and wicked from trying to use the government to get rich. Yep. We're seeing it with the 1.6 billion tax breaks that they got. Yep. We're seeing it with the school vouchers, the $1.1 billion that went to wealthy families. It's all connected. We're also seeing it with XAI in Memphis. People are asking for the grocery tax to be eliminated. People are asking for health care and for the real hospitals not to be closed. It's all connected. So what's next? In the short term, there's an airport authority meeting next week on August the 6th. There's also an airport authority meeting on August 13th. What I'm told is that possibly the airport authority members did not know about this, but they were invited. So I think I continue to speak up. I urge people to continue to use their voices in that effort. But we're going to keep going all the way through 2026 with this.
Can I speak to this as well? It's okay if I do this. Dustin Kelly, Executive Director of Stand Up Nashville, native resident here, community leader. To the point that you just asked her about what is next, right? That's the reason why we are here. For the entire year, we have been here and doing what we're supposed to do. We've been peaceful, been going along with the civic process. These people up here are the people that we elected to represent us, and yet they ignore them. We keep doing this the way that we're told we're supposed to do this, and our lives keep getting worse. They try to use all of these surface issues to try to divide us, but that's not happening anymore. You can't use that anymore. I know as many hardworking rural white people who are just as pissed off as all of my brown and black brothers and sisters here who are equally pissed off at what is happening in our urban core. We are sick of people being greedy and putting money and wealth before the good of the people. And what they're doing is they're doing us a favor. See, us as activists and organizers, we know that these lines are arbitrary. The things that are happening right here in Nashville, Tennessee are the same things that are happening, what'd you say, in Texas, and what's happening down there in Las Vegas. And what we're going to do is organize. Didn't nobody call me about Bourne, but you know what they did call me about? They called me to figure out where they can go find something to eat. I'm an organizer. I'm not an elected official. They have eroded their trust in elected officials. That is what's happening. We are breaking the fabric of this country. And what we are doing here today is trying to protect that. What they did up there today is not patriotic. What you did is just give one more example of how you're ignoring the people. So it's not just about this tunnel. It is about us as people. Y'all can trust in us. You can trust in Rachel. You can trust in Jess. You can trust in Kay. You can trust in Luis. You can trust in Amber and all the rest of these activists and organizers who talk to you every day. Bring your churches. Bring your work sites. Bring them to us. We will organize. There is power in numbers, and we are the people. Our country, 'tis of thee. It belongs to us. So when you ask what is next is that the people will say no longer, and we will take the action in the best way we think is appropriate.
Question. I read an article a couple of days ago that says this is mostly popular around town. So
we know they lie. What article was that?
There was an article. I'm not going to name names, but there was a pretty big paper that said this was mostly popular.
I think that's also evidence of what's going on, right? We are understanding too that there are media sources here who are not on our side. They write the stories for the rich, and we got to break all of these bad habits and all of these bad traditions. You have the power and the autonomy to do so. Justin Canoe, we thank you for always speaking up and speaking truth to power. And we need more media to do that. The people are not stupid. So that's unfortunate that there's a media company out there saying it, but I can guarantee you what you see right here are people who knocked on thousands of doors, way more than the media have ever touched. And we can guarantee you this is unpopular.
And right here, you.
So, I mean, shady politics has always existed, but I think that we're seeing right now with super majorities in Republican states that they are abandoning pretense. You know, they've announced gerrymandering in Texas openly and why they're doing it. Now we see here that 15 people got up and not one person was on board with the tunnel without at least further information. But the information's not present. How I operate in social media, and so I work on that platform, how can people like me be of service to help improve the quality of life in Tennessee, to get information out, because information is intentionally being suppressed. And just last week, Tennessee was nominated as the worst quality of life in the entire country. And I would like to help make it better. But how do we get information from what you're doing out in a more effective way when our representatives are trying so hard to suppress this information?
Well, I mean, one, thank the media for being here, but what we've seen is social media is a great tool. We need to make sure we're uplifting the right voices. You know, I saw Cameron Sexton quoted on this project. Why? He don't live here. Well, he does. He might, I don't know, but he is supposed to.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Anybody else want to say something?
Yeah, also just tell the truth. The lies are complicated. The best thing the media could do for us is just tell the unequivocal truth. If you were to put that out there, that helps us, the people who are talking to people on the ground, because what the other side tells are these slanted stories, all right, to give themselves an advantage in what they want and their needs are.
To kind of answer your question, what we have to do is, like you said, we have to work together. When you asked about following the hashtags, it's important for us to repost, share it, because if you post something and you have all of us resharing it, there's hundreds of thousands of people that will see it off of one post. So it's important that we use social media as intended as a tool, as she said.
So, and then also I think that there are many organizations that are on the ground doing the work. Whether it is you being a feeder into those organizations or directly working with those organizations to get the information from the ground, to know what's going on, when it's happening, and all the things, like, we can make it happen. I know the Equity Alliance, we have a very robust influencer program that we're building out. So we'd love to be able to work with you in that way. Any other influencers that may be here or that may be watching this or listening later, the Equity Alliance would absolutely love to be able to work with you. The Shift Nashville Coalition would love to be able to work with you to make sure that we're working in partnership to build a better Tennessee for us all.
Yeah, Senator Oliver, these things require permits, right? So Governor Lee and Sean Duffy had spoke at the press conference after this announcement and said, hey, we're going to get these permits, federal and state permits, kind of rolled through for the company. Is there a way that you think that you could look beyond the paperwork of these permits to understand where they're going to be doing this? And is that something that you guys are going to pursue?
Yeah, that's something that I've been curious about. And one of the biggest questions for me is what authority are they using to be able to do this process without the conventional process that they're supposed to? A no bid contract, how is that legal? So getting back to your question of what's next in a lawsuit, we need to be looking at what processes have been skipped and bypassed that may have been illegal to get this project going. Also, because, like I said in the building commission meeting, there is no land that this project will go under that isn't unoccupied. Yeah. So to magically build a tunnel and not touch any city property or private property in the blasting of a tunnel, how? I don't understand. So we do need to be looking at, even if local permitting needs to be addressed.
And I was about to say, as a follow-up for Councilmember Porterfield, obviously this whole situation has kind of gone over Metro's head. As a member of council, are you privy or aware to any action that council is going to take, that maybe the mayor's office is going to take to get more answers for residents who are living in these communities that are going to be affected?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the mayor's office, but I can speak on behalf of myself as a council member. We are still trying to get information. We do have questions that we need answers to. Again, we're finding out at the same time as you all. So unfortunately, the media, you all are having the information before we are. So we are finding out in real time with our over 700,000 constituents that we represent. So we will continue to look at every available option. I think that, again, I want to be very careful because I cannot speak on behalf of the city in this manner, but I think we have seen that Metro is willing to go forward with lawsuits when we see that there is an injustice that has been done, when there is something that we have standing on, when we can move forward. Metro has done that. So I cannot say that that is going to happen, but I will say that I myself as a council member will be looking at every available option that I have access to.
Ruben Montoya, Tennessee. I wanted to ask you, Senator, and anyone else who might know, how have you guys had any conversations with like people in the planning department, in state level or local level, and have you guys heard from them any like about their situation, what they're experiencing right now, given that this is such an expedited process?
I want to reiterate, we are hearing and learning about this in real time, just like our constituents. I did have a staffer reach out to our legal department here just to understand how they're able to do this. Even our legal department had a lot of questions to this process. So they were even tuning in to today's building commission meeting to learn more. So again, there's more questions and answers. No, Metro Legal has not engaged me, or Metro Planning has not engaged me, or even the Commissioner of General Services here.
How soon do you guys plan to start those conversations with those people?
Immediately and ongoing. Absolutely. Yesterday, yes.
I'll say from the organizing side, Stand Up Nashville, we have a Sunshine Squad, and what that is a group of our community advocates and people who engaged. We go out to all of the Metro Council meetings. We'll be at the planning meetings as well to figure out exactly what's going on. So we ask that y'all encourage people to join us, to be at every planning meeting that's going to happen, so that we can get the information and get it back to the people, to your point, so that we can communicate what we are hearing directly as constituents on the ground.
I just wanted to weigh back in on the permitting concern, which that hits home for us in Memphis, because we've seen how Elon conducts business in Memphis and frankly everywhere where he is, exploited entire communities. For an entire year, Elon Musk has operated 35 methane gas turbines with no permitting at all, that belch out formaldehyde, that belch out nitrogen oxide 3 miles away from people's homes and churches. So, again, this isn't a man that's governed by rules or regulations or decency. This is a man that's governed by an insatiable appetite for power, for profit. And I also think that we ought to take Sean Duffy's words with a grain of salt, because he can't even keep the planes in the sky. So.
I want to respond to the permit.
For any of the elected officials here, I'm just curious if you guys are looking at or planning any sort of legislation or public policy to kind of maybe put regulations on something like this, or anything like that.
It's too early to look at that right now. Again, we're still in fact finding mode. Perhaps that may come out in the fall of what needs to happen, what missteps were made in this process that need to be corrected. But yes, I think we will be looking at possible legislation.
Senator Oliver, can I say something really quick? I also want to flag that I was thinking about why now? Like why now? And this is a distraction from what's going to happen in August, when our commissioners, the Democratic caucus, sent a letter to Commissioner Bryson, who runs the Department of Finance and Administration, asking about the impact of federal funding cuts across our state government. They have yet to respond. And in August, all of these commissioners are coming back with Governor Lee, and they're going to start slashing SNAP and Medicaid. And that is why this is a distraction. I was trying to figure it out, and I figured it out. This is a distraction to keep us from the real substantive conversation, which is the federal funding cuts, and that our budget is a mess, and that we are about to see state agencies cut programs and people are going to die. That is the distraction.
And one last thing.
One last question.
Just one last thing about that is that we're seeing people from outside of Tennessee govern for Tennessee. Everything that this Trump administration seems to think of or wants to do, Bill Lee, because it's hard for me to call him governor when you're not governing. Bill Lee literally pulls his pants down and says, "What do you want and how do you want it?" And this is. It may be a little vivid, but the point is, I think you understand what I'm saying. People are not being governed by the people who actually live in Tennessee. Things are happening outside of here that's impacting our lives daily. And as my colleague just said, there are real issues that people are going to have to face. Are they going to have enough food on their table? Are they going to be able to have health care? They don't even have a place to live. And we're sitting here fussing about a tunnel that is not going to help not one Tennessean quality of life or put the essential benefits that they need to live.
We'll take one last question right here. She had her hand up for a minute.
Yeah.
This lady.
Yep.
I hate to go back to talk about the tunnel after that, but yesterday, a council member, Courtney Johnston, told us that the boring company reached out to the Metro Council as well as the mayor ahead of the project, and I was wondering if there is any validity of that or proof that they reached out.
I believe you're referring to Councilmember Courtney Johnson, who tried to run a budget to defund and destabilize our city just last month, trying to cut public education. They may have reached out to that particular council member who may be in cahoots with whomever she may be working with, but I can guarantee you that the Metro Council as a whole was not contacted about this. Councilmember Johnston represents one district. I represent over 700,000 Nashvillians and receive no information. So people reach out to who they think will be in support of their pet projects and in support of billionaires. But the Metro Council was not consulted on this.
Tasha Ellis, District 29. I'm a council member and also a member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Our meeting is on Monday. We already have our council agenda, our subcommittee agenda, and nothing about the boring company is on there. So I just want to lift up two questions since it seems like these deals are going on behind doors. Number one, what do I tell my constituents that are going to be impacted by the drilling that's going to be done, the vibrations that are going to be done? Number two, I want to know if one of my constituents gets in one of those Teslas and for whatever reason it stops working and it catches fire, how are we going to have the emergency personnel to go in and to get those people out? So we have real questions that are going to impact people's lives. And again, as a member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, I want some answers.
And who pays for those emergency services? Okay, one last question.
It doesn't go unnoticed to me that the airport is located where a lot of Black and brown people live. So I'm curious about if you could elaborate on those environmental concerns, because I was here for the 2010 floods and I saw how South
I'm not the environmental expert, but you know, we can call a spade. Again, Elon Musk, the boring company, cherry picks the neighborhoods that they think that they can overpower, that they think don't have a voice to do their pet projects. We're talking about stormwater, wastewater. What about the electricity that will be used to power lighting underground, erosion controls, like sinkholes, pollution, emissions? All of those things need to be considered. What are the impacts? And is this environmental racism? Is it?
It is.
It looks like it. It is.
Call it what it is. Okay, yeah.
All right, I see no other questions. It's hot in here, so we will leave it at that. Thank y'all for coming.
If you want to dip with anyone.